mate. Do you like my
Eee.
cactus?
I love your I love your cactus. No, I've never quite seen a cactus shaped that way. What's been happening in your life? Because I'm seeing so much wild content from you, well, from you or about you on Instagram. Were you like catching fish yesterday in the ocean with like just a net?
Last week, like maybe Wednesday evening, I caught loads of whitebait for dinner. It was really nice.
What? Wait, were you? That's amazing, first of all. I didn't know you could just do that. Like you were just running up and down the beach.
In my boxers. That was also the bit you messed out. I was definitely in my boxers on the video you saw. And yeah, so I was in Dorset, Portland in Dorset. So not Portland in the US, Portland on the south coast of the United Kingdom. And what happens is you get these like bass that come up the coastline and they scare all the little fish or the little whitebait. And then so these massive schools of whitebait end up on the shoreline. And yeah, we found a very broken net. And I was just like running around, like picking up whitebait. Yeah, I got loads of them. I got like a couple of kilos.
What? Wait, so this wasn't even your own net. This was like something you found on the side of the beach or something.
Yeah, I found the net. It's like kind of like a trailer park, like the sailing center, and there's loads of random stuff everywhere. So I found a net underneath a friend. A friend found it underneath his trailer, and yeah, ran around. I think he's going to restore it though, because that net did a good job. It was really good. We got so much whitebait, and he was just there with a bucket, and I was there like picking up whitebait. It's great. You
very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, you put them in a little bit of flour and then like shallow fry them, and you end up with like fish chips essentially.
That's incredible.
They're really nice.
Very, very cool. But wait, this wasn't your, you said you were going to do like a windsurfing vacation, right? Oh no, a parasailing vacation? I forget.
I was meant to go paragliding, but I was meant to go paragliding on the cliffs, but the wind was bad. That's why we didn't have a podcast last week, because
I see.
I was meant to be doing this, but the wind was bad for paragliding, but it was great for everything else. So I went kite surfing, went windsurfing, did all the stuff that I haven't done in ages because I live in London. Got Juliet wind foiling as well, which was really cool. Wing foiling. Wing foiling, you know, with the inflatable wing that you like hold, like the inflatable sail.
No, I don't know that. What?
They're really big on it in San Francisco. Like if you go down to Chrissy Fields, there'll always be people wing foiling. So I got her doing that the first time. We also went kite surfing, like normal kite surfing.
What? That looks amazing.
Yeah, man, you can go do that in Chrissy. You should go. It's just down the road from you.
It's just down the road, yeah. I've never seen that before. So it's like windsurfing, but the sail isn't attached.
Yes. And the boards are normally smaller, thicker, and have hydrofoils on the bottom.
Yeah, it's like the one from the Mark Zuckerberg video on 4th of July.
Maybe. I don't know.
The one you can like rock on and whatever.
Yeah, you can like pump on it. I remember seeing a video of him behind a boat, like wake surfing in a full suit.
Oh, okay.
But that's not the video you're thinking of. That was like kind of a baller video, but he wasn't foiling in that one.
I see.
All of the tech people love hydrofoiling. Like one of the Google founders is very well known to like hydrofoiling, hydrofoil kite surfing. Yeah, he's like super into like the top of the range, fastest kites, and yeah, some of my friends have done some like instruction, coaching, guidance.
I'll tell you what, when you're back here in October, we'll go.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. Yeah, I mean, I heard October's a pretty good time of year for it. Yeah, dude, you should really get into that sort of stuff. San Francisco is like one of the best places in the world for wind sports because it's super breezy and you're right underneath the bridge. So just like the scenery is awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, to be honest, like the July has been like really cold or whatever. Like it's super foggy. I'm just looking out at it now, and it's not as warm as a lot of people think it is. But it's really nice in like September, October, from what I hear. So I think maybe that would be the best time to do it. But dude, it's not like I have so much spare time to pick up all these extra hobbies. It's there's too much already. But it looks really fun.
No, it's good. I think like the aim is to do as much focused as you can, and then you like get good enough at it that you can just go for an hour. Like that is the gold standard. Like when you get into something, it always takes the whole day. And like, even if you're doing just a lesson for 2 hours, that 2 hours consumes the whole day, right? And then once you've done it a bit and once you like have some time, like, I know people who live in Spain and Portugal and stuff, and they can go surfing in the morning, like before work, they just go surfing. There's a guy I was chatting to who works at Sentry now. He just literally goes surfing before work. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's
So
really,
like,
really cool.
for me, that is a whole weekend trip to spend like 3 hours driving down to the South Coast to go surfing.
Yeah, it's similar for the cycling. Like that's I think the stuff I do most here, and that's like most different from life in London. Is you can just have these like really incredible like cycles in the morning, and there's like several groups going like every day.
Was that here? That would be mostly a weekend thing. Like if you want to do a decent ride to get out, like you're getting a train somewhere or you're doing like a pretty long ride out into the countryside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
definitely.
train and bike combos is quite elite though. I do back that.
The train and
I like
bike
that a
combo,
lot.
okay, I don't want to tangent this to sub agents, but
Well,
the train and bike combo reminds me of some like hack that we've done because we live in a city that's expanded so large that it's actually not that very livable in if you're into outdoors. And so the train and bike combo is a necessity, which is, I want to bring up our first topic, Claude Code subagents, which is exactly the same reason as Claude Code subagents. You do it because context windows are too small, and so you need to create a subagent to go out and explore the wilderness to get some answer to not pollute your main context window.
That is a
Yeah.
really interesting way
There you
to
go.
describe
There's your
that.
tangent. Whereas I think people are going to overuse them. They're going to build massive like scaffolding around subagents, and then actually better context window models are going to have less and less use for subagents. There you go.
Yeah, that's
The
really
bitter
interesting.
lesson of life in
I
London.
hadn't No, I hadn't quite
Over
thought about it that way.
optimizing on
Have
the
you
awful
used
stuff.
subagents for anything yet? Whenever Claude Code releases a feature like this, I'm like, oh wow, this is like a game changer.
Yeah.
The word that should be banned. But then like in actual practical use, like, I don't know, I guess we're like very early still, and it's like we need to figure out how to use this stuff still. But I feel like there's
Yeah.
some exciting future for subagents. I wish MCP servers could provide subagents, to be honest. I think that is really
That's
interesting.
A2A. That's A2A, dude. That is A2A. It's like the agent to agent protocol is like you provide sub agents for your mate for another agent that wants it to go off and do some research. I think in a couple of years, if that either takes off or dies, I think you'll see like the conclusion of that thought.
Interesting.
We all think about HTTP, right? But HTTP, isn't it just a like TCP request? And it's like a higher level thing.
Yeah.
It's just TCP, right? So like maybe we
It's
in a couple of
just-
years we start all thinking about A2A, and under the hood it's just MCP.
I see. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know that much about A2A. It felt like more, it felt a little bit like, Google wanted to have its own like MCP, but then it decided to actually
It's
go
kind
in on
of it's
MCP
kind of
as
cool.
well.
It's kind of cool. I think it's really good for the infrastructure companies. So it's saying you define an application with an entry point that you put in a specified place, that you document in a specified way. You document the capabilities of your application, of your agent, and then now you have this agent building block that you can then compose and use in other applications. It's like you have access to these tools. This is the entry point. Knock yourself out. I made the
Interesting.
A2A. I made the example for the Cloudflare agents, like just to have an example inside the agents SDK. And I think it will be really cool for them because they'll be able to utilize that in much more of a deep way. Like if you're an infrastructure provider and you provide a way for people to write their application code so it conforms to a spec, then you can do way more stuff there because you have like some knowledge of what your person's done with the application. So you could then have some special RPC which directly calls other A2A agents without necessarily needing like a direct connection or something. I don't know. There would be like loads of funky things that you could do if you knew what was going on in that worker was an A2A agent.
I see. Yeah, wow. I should probably look into this a little bit more. So A2A, like it always appeared to me like it was a little bit of a theoretical thing, and it was very far away from MCP in terms of like its adoption and like actual usefulness. But it sounds like you can do useful things with it.
But it's like, it's all the big companies are talking about, like the crazy big SaaS companies, because they all want to own that. Have we talked about this before or not?
I see. No, I don't think we have.
Oh, they all want to own. I've talked about this a lot with a few people recently. They all want to own that marketplace, and so if you chat to, I don't know, any of the really big SaaS companies, they're like, oh, we want anyone who's building agents on our platform to conform to A2A because then we can just have an A2A compatible marketplace internally, like the Slack store, like your Simple Poll, right? Like for that, they created a way for anyone to install applications on Slack, but how how do you install agents on Slack? It would be nice if there was a protocol that they didn't have to build. And so it's like, if there's any A2A agent, you could now install it as a Slack app. You see how the compatibility like really is helpful for them there without them having to like think about it from first principles.
Okay, let me ask you a very specific thing that I was, I mean, that all kind of makes sense in theory so far though. The specific thing that I've been like bumping up against recently a bunch is, tinkering a lot with like Claude Code, with like how to integrate Colo into it, like in like a reliable way. And one of the things where it's consistently been quite useful, but it's like pretty awkward and I can't get MCP to do like the right thing. So imagine this, like you have like a failing test, like you made some changes on your branch, you have like a failing test. It's like not obvious why it's failing. It's like some weird error, like Claude Code is trying to fix it. It maybe just deleted the test or changed some asserts around or like, I don't know. That's something that was not what you like consider like a satisfactory resolution to the test. One thing that's worked really well for me in that workflow is like basically enable Colo for the test and then run the test like before the change and then after the change. So then you have two traces. And then usually a smart model like an O3 can look at the two traces, like the before and after, and figure out like exactly what's different and like why it's failing now and what you need to fix. Like the trace data has like the valuable like stuff in it essentially. But the problem is like it's kind of a lot of orchestration for Claude Code to like do all of that. Like, check out the old thing, run the test. Then you have these two stored traces or you have them like in your memory or something. Then you need to like essentially pass them both together to like a new sub task or a sub agent or something like that. Let that do its thinking and then come back to it. And the question is like, now how can you make this like codify this or whatever? Is it like a Colo agent? Is it like a Claude Code sub agent? Or could like A2A actually help?
And it's not like, you can't just make a bash script or a tool in Colo that does all of that. Like, could you have an MCP server in Colo that does all of that? Or does it need some extra stuff that you can't do in an MCP tool?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, so Colo has an MCP server for a bunch of this. So it can for example, like read all like the recent traces. But I guess the thing that I always end up bumping up against is you both want some actual like agentic intelligence kind of stuff inside the MCP tool, which sure you could do with what's that?
Elicitation.
Like passionately named thing? No, I think that's quite
well.
Sampling.
Sampling.
So you could in theory have sampling, right? But it just feels like a little bit awkward. I think more so than just sampling, you probably want more like a Claude Code process actually running, or like some kind of tool calling thing running inside of a tool call, which at that point is already like an agent, right? So it's like, because ideally you want to like check out the old branch, like run the test there, like get the trace from that, then get back to the current branch, run it again. It includes like...
So, but that process there, you could write out in English in a rule. And then when that happens, you could be like, Claude, use a sub-agent to perform this process.
I see. So you can...
Like I'd either try and encapsulate it in a prompt first. And then if it can reliably do it in a prompt, it can get that prompt from wherever, right? It can get that prompt from a text file in the code base. If it can reliably do it from a prompt, then try and package it as an MCP tool. And if at some point that breaks, then that's interesting. And if you can't do it from the first thing, then probably wait a month and the new model will come out, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. But
I don't think it's an A2A thing.
But you could see how like if MCP allowed like providing sub agents, right? That can just like, I don't know exactly how it would work, but that can just like go off and like perform this whole separate thing.
Why would you need MCP to provide sub agents though? Why couldn't Claude provide the sub agent? The only use of the sub agent is to not pollute the context of the main agent and to have specific rules.
Right, but that's only one of the benefits, right? Like the other benefit is that you can encapsulate this whole other like logic, including a bunch of specialized tools and whatever, like in like a separate thing that can go out and do it. Like even as, Claude is like starting to go down this one track of trying to fix this like hypothetical failing test, you could have a sub agent try and like gather this other context that might give some insight like onto what the real like root cause issue is.
But I don't understand the benefit of a subagent, because a subagent you lose the context. Surely you're better to have like multiple main. If your problem is that it doesn't always get it, then the solution to that is to have to parallelize the task, not to split off the task and try and, because you're handicapping Claude. You're like, you go off and do this, but then you've got to spawn a subagent, give it the right amount of context of a code base that you probably already explored, and then it has to go and do the thing again. I don't know. I really don't understand the hype, apart from if you have specific rules that you want to put in. Because, okay, so the cool thing would be if your subagents and your personas for subagents, which is, I think is what they're calling them, could have their own MCP servers. That would mean that you could do some sort of like tool reduction in the main agent, which would probably give better performance. That makes sense. But the whole reason for subagents is to get around the limited context window problem.
Well, but it's I mean, I think that's only one of the benefits, right? Like the other benefit is that you can parallelize, you can explore different paths. Like, do you know how in Codex you can like have it do like 4 different approaches to like your prompt at the same time? Like this feels a little bit like that, right? Like one of the subagents might discover something.
Why couldn't you do that with the main agent?
But I don't know. Why can't you?
Well, you can. People are using like Vibe Kanban and stuff to run like multiple versions of the same task in parallel, seeing which has the better answer, and then just taking that one. Well, your point is that you would want to do that whole process automated, so Claude to do that itself. But how is Claude going to be a judge of which was the right answer?
I mean, I guess like in this example I'm describing, right? It's like you hand this all off to some other entity, and then it comes back with some insight that it learned from its like whole separate parallelized investigation. And then that unlocks something new in like the main workflow. So like main Claude can kind of continue chugging along based on the like novel thing learned from like a subagent.
But why couldn't, like, if the only reason that the main agent couldn't do it is because it couldn't use that amount of context, is that the only reason? Or is it a time-saving thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's like really less about the context thing, and it's more that like you can do it in parallel, I guess. Or maybe
so it's
you
a
can
time-saving.
Like, so it's a time-saving thing, yeah. Or
okay.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's a time-saving thing, and also it's like a context pollution thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're the 2 reasons to have subagents: context pollution and time saving. Because, for instance, if you explore a whole part of a code base that your main agent would never need to explore, or even a different code base, or you do some sort of like long research, but the answer is 1 line, then you don't want that into the main agent because you're polluting a context. So that makes sense to me. I don't know. I do. You remind me all the time that there is so much alpha in just understanding how to use Claude Code well, and like working out all the hooks and stuff. How does one do that? Dude, I don't know. Like, I've been playing with the GitHub action again because it's just constantly breaking for me. And I'm actually really annoyed because their docs don't, you have to basically read the code of the action to understand how to use the action. And the action is 2 actions. It's the outside Claude Code action, which has all the niceties of like some tags for being like, if you tag it in a PR or whatever. And then you have the base action, which is the action that actually runs Claude. And the base action is the thing that like converts all of the outside environment variables that they set into the Claude command. So you have to, if you want to see like whether something has worked, you have to track it all the way through the actions. And it is a bit of a pain in the ass. Like also they've disabled, this is a big thing for me, they've disabled web search and web fetch, which are the 2 best tools. They've disabled that in the Claude Code action. The question to me is like, if I enable it by default, like if I enable it from the outside, and so they're both enabled and disabled, which one takes priority? Can you even do a web search from a Claude Code action? Have they turned that off by default? So I'm actually halfway through working this out because I forked the action. I changed the thingy, the disallowed tools, and so we'll see if I want to see if that works. I want to have a Claude Code action that's like completely YOLO'd, that like has all permissions taken off, that it can just like go wild. I want to see how that works, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart idea. I think that's really cool. I think in general, probably like we would all do well from like building out a bit more of our own like personalized like AI tooling, right? We talked about this a little bit last week.
Yeah, my boss was asking about how we can have code reviewers. And my favorite topic, AI assisted code review, how we can have code reviewers that like really do stop us needing a human reviewer. So for things like security, performance, and there was one stylistic one that he had, but he had a bunch of rules really. And I was like, yeah, if you can write them out, we can just make a Claude Code action. He was like, oh, wouldn't you use like one of these 10 other tools that we've tried? I'm not going to name them all, but we've tried like literally all of the AI code reviewers. And I was like, oh, like I really just would use Claude Code in GitHub because you do have a few advantages. Yes, it's fiddly and annoying to set up. It's under the hood, it's Claude Code, right? If they make Claude Code better, your reviewer will get better, like guaranteed. And
right.
And like you're getting it straight from Anthropic, so they are going to try and make Claude Code the best way to consume Claude. At the moment, Claude is the best model, and any of the rules that you write out will be useful, even if, say, OpenAI becomes the best model, and we want to use Codex, they'll be the same rules, right? So I think natively having, or even not Codex, if we want to use OpenCode, for instance, with an OpenAI model, then it will be the same rule that we supply. So I do think like companies, like back to your point, like companies, or even just us ourselves, building out our own suite of rules, our own suite of workflows. And then it comes back to this thing like we have these workflows, maybe we have 30 repos in our org. Do we have to manually add all of these workflows to each of the repos and manually keep these files up to date with all of these different rules? Or is every company going to publish their rules files as a package that then gets imported into every every repo? Because I think that's what's going to happen, right? Like I'm going to import the Stack One node rules file, or I'm going to import the Stack One monorepo rules file just from npm or from wherever really. And I think that's how we're going to do it in future, because then you can have them all in one place. One person can look after them. One person can be like, keep them up to date, and they can sit next to the docs for like what technologies you use in the organization.
I think we've been saying this for like months, right? But I feel like some kind of product that like helps people write like really great rules files and solves all these kinds of issues that you just described would be very, very effective. Like I think I am kind of slightly shocked every week by just like how like really good prompting is like gets a lot more juice out of the models. And like it makes sense, but it's also just like kind of continues to be surprising. And I think that's why we see such a big rift between like people who like get so much value out of these things and people who like don't, basically. I was reading a bunch of articles actually earlier in the week, just catching up. Wait, let me find this one actually. Did you see this one? Like after months of coding with LLMs, I'm going back to using my brain. This is from May, so it's a little bit older, but I finally like read it. It's actually not that long, but I just want to highlight how it ends. I'm just going to read the last 2 paragraphs because I think it makes this point really well. So he says, some days I feel like we're also being gaslit by LLM providers. Just look at any AI-related subreddit and you'll see people having completely opposite experiences with the exact same model, with the same prompt on the same day. If you code with AI long enough, you'll be able to relate. One day it's amazing, the next day it's incredibly stupid. Are they throttling the GPUs? Are these tools just impossible to control? What the fuck is going on? Like, how many times have you seen a blog post that ends with, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I just think like it highlights that there is like so much skill to using these things. And I think like actually writing great prompts is not very like easy, or it's just like a very novel thing to do. So I would love if someone could write some incredible rules files or help me write them, or I don't know, or guide me through the process, or like I think there's like a bit of everyone's building agents, no one's teaching how to control them.
And that's why it's so annoying when like the feedback loop is really long, right? Like I might have Claude Code run for, I think my longest one was like 30 minutes. If Claude Code's running for 30 minutes and then halfway through it dies because it can't use git status like 3 times and because the bash tool hasn't been allowed for a particular thing, it's like, come on guys, like that's table stakes, that's software engineering. Not even software engineering, that's like config. And maybe it's on me. It probably is on me, but that should be easier to set up. Like that's such a mess. And then that's not even regarding like, here's the one-liner where you should write like what your custom prompt is. Like no advice on that, like how to do a custom prompt there. It's all like, here, you should learn them. So I don't know. You know how people have like awesome repos where they have like awesome, awesome Ruby on Rails projects or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want
awesome.
to make one with like awesome Claude.yamls, and I
That's a
actually
great
might
idea.
because
Please do that.
some people must have really good ways of doing this. And like I've tried. I think I've experimented with a bunch of different MCP servers. And like I didn't even know. Rio from my company found this out that if you have a .mcp.json file inside your repo, Claude will automatically load those MCPs. Did you know that?
I didn't realize it was dot.
Yeah, it's
That's
inside your repo. You need .mcp.json file. What the fuck even is this file? Like the config is so different everywhere you look. Claude Code will automatically load them, but the tools won't be automatically allowed unless you put them in your allowed tools. What the fuck is that?
yeah, that's messy. That's strange. It's funny you mentioned all the review tools earlier. I actually just tried out CodeRabbit yesterday for the first time.
Oh yeah? How'd you find it?
I thought it definitely added some value. Like I thought it pointed out some useful things. I think the GitHub UI was like a little bit clunky in terms of like there's just like so much stuff that they put in there. They even wrote like
Yeah.
a poem about my pull
Dude,
request,
I think I
which
wrote
I'm like not sure.
I wrote a big old rant about CodeRabbit writing poems, and I was like,
Did you?
dude, we're melting ice caps. Why are you writing poems while I wait for your shitty review bot to do its thing? I wrote it in like one of the letters. I've written a few letters to like the users of Shippy, and I wrote it in one of those. I was like, this is what we will not be. This is the most
Mate,
shit.
how do I get the letters from Shippy? I would love to get those letters.
They're in the discussions. I don't know. I don't really publicize them. I just sort of write them for myself. Yeah.
I mean, that is great, to be fair. But no, I thought it was interesting. I thought it definitely got like a bunch of stuff like completely wrong. But I feel like you could just smell that they had clearly like built a bunch of prompts that react to like a certain pattern or that like help you catch certain kinds of errors. Like I was upgrading like the Django version in Simple from like 4.2 to 5.2 and doing a bunch of like changes that are required for that. And it's like, oh, like this library is not available on this Python version. If you're on that Python version, like you have to like watch out. And I'm like, okay, I am clearly not on the old Python version, so that doesn't really matter. But like still, I thought it was like a smart, basically my point is just that you could kind of smell that they had, that clearly a lot of the value for CodeRabbit lies in like all the custom prompting they had done.
Yeah. But that feels, if that's your moat, holy shit, I'd be worried.
It's strange, but I don't know, man. Like, I wish I had the skill to write prompts like this. Maybe I need to try more.
Maybe
But,
right.
but I don't know. I don't believe in moats at the moment. I think it's just like.
I think I want a better UI to write prompts in. Is it just me? Like, how do you write your prompts? Do you write? Because I end up writing them, like writing them in Cursor or in something sucks. It feels awful.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be cool. Like some sort of way of structuring prompts. Right? Because most of the time when I read prompts, I read them in like JSON format in like some horrible thing that's not pleasing on the eye. It's not nice. And then when I write them, I end up writing them in Cursor while it's like auto-suggesting boatloads of shit for me. And I'm like, this sucks as well. Writing your prompts directly into YAML sucks. Writing them, like, I don't know what the solution is there. I know the solution, I know it's not, is another third-party tool. That's not the solution. Like another
that's
SaaS
what I was
tool.
about to suggest.
No, because that's what Langsmith did. And like all the other eval platforms for agents have built like prompt writing like things. Yeah, you should try some of them. But then what they do is they're like, oh, here is the API for you to get your prompt. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, that's definitely bad.
No.
I think what I find hard with the prompt writing is just like I feel like I lose motivation very quickly because you have like no good feedback loop, right? Like if you're writing like a Claude rules file, like how are you going to test it out? Like especially if it's some niche scenario that you're not going to hit, right? It's just you're going to figure out if it worked like 3 days later when you actually hit the scenario that you were just like talking about. But if you had some kind of like live evals against it, I think that could be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think focus is a big skill. I think like maybe maybe this is just advice I'm giving myself, but like practicing like reduced like brain stimulation from all the social feeds, like I don't know, getting like a floating tank or something to reduce your like dopamine, and then just being able to sit still and focus and just think about your prompt for an hour in a very like Zen enabling text editor like Zed perhaps. You just
Yeah,
write your
Zed is
prompt,
nice.
no UI, just you and the keyboard for an hour, and then thinking about it, the prompt. No assistance in any way. I think maybe that's the way. And I actually think, did I say this already? I think like people like Torsten are actually really good at this
Yeah.
because
No, you
he
wanted to talk about
enjoys
this.
writing and reading. Yeah. Clearly, I should just message him about this. But I feel like, yeah, if you're able to hold focus on a thing for a long period of time, you're probably a good prompt writer.
Focus on a thing for a long period of time. Yeah, I think so. I've been reading some more prompts. I have a gist of the Claude Code GitHub prompt. When I first used it, I didn't know whether it was like a secret or not, and so I copied out because I was just really interested. And it's actually way shorter than you might imagine. It's like, this is what you can do. This is how you should do it. And then there's just like 4 or 5 rules, and there's like this is what you're able to do. This is what you're not able to do. Knock yourself out. It's way shorter than you imagine. And yeah, like I'm really trying to think about the bitter lesson a bit more. Like, what happens when models get better? What should I be thinking? What should I not be thinking about now because it's pointless for the future? And what should I be thinking about now? And I think getting better at using tools that are going to be around in 5 years' time, or at least the form factor is going to be around in 5 years' time. That's a good thing to be better at. Being better at, I don't know, like understanding the intricacies of some particular piece of scaffolding that someone's built, or some tool that someone's built, like a AI tool that someone's built, maybe not so much. So like getting better at Claude Code and getting better at using hooks, getting better at using like MCP, like the patterns that are developing, I think that's helpful. I think getting better at doing like tweaks to reduce context window length and stuff like that maybe is not so important, but I'm not sure. Oh, I saw the most wild thing today.
This months ago. Go on.
I saw the most wild thing today. I saw a guy from Shopify, because I was at the MCP lunch with David.
Oh yeah, the MCP breakfast. That looked great. Yeah,
it was at lunchtime.
Love that that's a thing.
Yeah, it was. We upgraded from MCP breakfast to MCP lunch. It was really good. Akash from Early Bird is actually smashing it with his like talk, dinner, breakfast things. I think this one there was about 20 people there. Everyone was like really frothed on it all, and there was a bunch. Yeah, frothed. Frothed is like a very 2018 surfer word. You're so frothed, man. Shit. Need to re-educate my vocabulary. But yeah, everyone was so stoked on it. And David had brought a bunch of the Anthropic team. It was their offsite, so he'd brought them all down. And so we could actually ask questions like directly to the people building the stuff and how they were thinking about the protocol. That was really good. It was super nice. And I saw an awesome demo from a guy from Shopify about how they're doing, I think he works on mcp-ui as well, how they are returning like UI components to the client and like telling the client how to render them. Like, so for any different client, it could render them, and like it wouldn't matter like whether the client was built in Ruby on Rails or was built in React or Svelte or whatever. It would be quite cross-compatible about how they render the UI. They also wouldn't have to like generate too much to render it, because that's also a thing. Everyone previously thought that the MCP servers would return like, you need a checkout page now to display this information, and then the client would like render the checkout page. But now what these guys seem to be thinking now is that the client would have these like the server would have these like pre-notions of actions that the client would need to have to do, like pre-notions of tools. And one of the tools would be like checkout page. And then the client would render the checkout page as described by the server. And there's loads of cool stuff there, because stuff renders in an iframe. Yeah, it's really cool.
No way. That is wild. Is that the idea of MCP-ui basically?
Yeah. And they're really cool. So for things like
awesome.
the client could always choose how to handle it. So the server would return like the checkout page tool, and then the client would be like, okay, I'm going to open the checkout page tool, and I can open it in whatever format they feel like. But the server is rendering the checkout page, so it feels still like if your server developer is, I don't know,
That's
The example,
incredible.
yeah, the example that was given was like Ticketmaster. If you want to pick like seats
Yeah.
in a ticket place, like, it feels like
Yeah.
Ticketmaster embedded inside ChatGPT or whatever, and ChatGPT
But
can
without an
work out.
iframe.
I think this particular example was with an iframe, but the main thing
I
that
see.
can happen is that ChatGPT decides where to render it, how to render it,
Right.
and like where to
Yep.
place it on the page. But then every action that's made in the iframe, like, how did he describe it? Is like an event that the client is a I think it's an event, is like a tool that the client can then consume. So if you're in the iframe and you pick a seat, you pick the right seat, then the client can be like, they've gone to the next stage. It asks the server, what do we render now? And the server is like, oh, now you should render the checkout page. And so the checkout page can now slide out or do some other form of UI that feels much more native to that client, because the client is describing how to render everything, or like where it should be rendered and how it should be rendered. And the server is describing like what should be rendered.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm a fan. It reminds me a little bit of how things actually work in like Slack, like for Slack apps.
Oh yeah, you've
Because
done loads of this
ultimately,
before.
yeah, and I thought about it a ton and actually built some of this into GitHub. It didn't end up like shipping. I think Jira, also a very interesting example of this. I think Jira uses more like, or a little bit more of the iframe approach. I think both have like merits, but in Slack, you just send back and forth like JSON payloads. And then in your JSON payload, you say like render this button. And then clicking the button should send me a new payload with like this callback ID. And that's literally how, and then obviously Slack is like is the only client. Well, they have like an iOS and an Android, but it's not like, anyone can build a Slack client, I guess. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But it works
That's the
really
main
well.
difference. That's the main difference.
You do definitely hit a limit in how complex your UIs can get. And I think, especially for us wanting to build like a super smooth, very simple like application, there's definitely limits where you had to like do awkward stuff with the like limited UI components that were available. But I think iframes can actually be a legit workaround for that.
Yeah. When he was showing me the thing, I need to look into it, because mcp-ui is like open source. You can have a look at it. And I'm pretty sure these guys are part of the MCP, like the UI side of the working group. So
very cool.
I'm pretty sure
how much is happening in MCP world.
So that would be awesome. Sick. But it does worry me a little bit. So the first thing is that you will be able to do like native shopping in ChatGPT with components that are defined by some inbuilt MCP server or inbuilt tools server. Like they don't call it MCP internally, but it will be. You'll like flick on shopping on ChatGPT, and then like the same way that Claude Code uses a GitHub MCP under the hood, it will be the same thing. It will be like some sort of shopping MCP, some Shopify MCP. And then that's nuts. I think it's cool. But then the next iteration of that is like they turn on ads, and you have like the ad networks or the ad providers. Now they can return like mcp-ui. And then and what happens there is like in between parts of your process, your client calls a tool to render some ad that then gets like brought in. And man, you could do so much shit with that. Like imagine on your image generations, like before your image is generated, it calls a tool to be like, what is the ad of the day? And it's like Coca-Cola or something. And then all of your image generations have like a Coca-Cola logo, like reproduced like on some piece of clothing or something inside your image. I don't know. That's going to go fucking nuts. And I have no idea what the end state of play is there.
Yeah, that's a glimpse into the future that we probably have some mixed feelings about. But wow, I mean, exciting time. Exciting to be tinkering. Oh, by the way, I watched that podcast you sent me, or I listened to it, or half of it, with Mike Maples, and talking about, you sent this to me, right? Like your startup idea should be more ambitious or something like that. And it talks about
that was me.
This idea of living in the future. This feels kind of like that. Or I guess a lot of MCP feels like that. I really like that way of thinking about it. Like you are living in the future, and like the question is like, what is not working in the future, and how can you help make it work?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to take that to heart. I mean, a lot of VCs say a lot of really weird stuff when it comes to like picking ideas and knowing what to work on. But that actually did stick with me. If you can try and like everything's going to get better, right? as in like all of this technology is going to get more advanced. It's going to get more crazy. We're going to have more capabilities. Maybe better is the wrong word. But so if you can try and like be at the edge of all of those capabilities all the time, at least in your particular niche, then as close as you are to the edge, you have sort of that amount of breathing room between anyone else who might be like thinking about it as well. So I love the example of Figma, where they went away, they decided something needed building, and they went away for what, like 2.5 years to build a rendering engine. And then the Figma guys like said, as soon as we released it, we had product market fit, which is just like, that's crazy.
That is wild. Yeah. Yeah. They were in this like wilding period for a while, for years and years. It's a very cool story, but it just feels like there's so much to be built at the moment. Like things are really shifting so much.
Yeah. But don't you get the sense that don't you get the sense that most people think about something in the same sort of way, where they're like, this is how something is going to work, and so we need all of these integrations, for instance, like we needed that yesterday, and so we're probably going to need it tomorrow, and so no one's building it, so we should build it now. Like I feel there's that. So I don't know. I think about this like a fair amount. Like how do you bring yourself like further into what do we need that people don't necessarily even need now? Like what will they need in like 3 years when like Meta just released their do you see the super intelligence what's it called, like manifesto? Like Mark Zuckerberg just released his super intelligence manifesto. I'll send it to you.
Not yet, no, please. Yeah.
Where he's like talking about these crazy ideas about how that might work and all this stuff. And then I saw that video of the humanoid. Do you see not humanoid robot? You see the robot that folded clothes, but it looked like a lamp?
Yeah.
And I was like, that is mad, right? Like that is so cool. I mean, I hate the claws. They look terrifying.
They look like that came
Dr. Ock or something like, from Spider-Man. Like, is the future where we have like robots in the house more? Because it probably is. And then what are they going to need to be able to do?
I feel like that future is like quite out there in some ways, right? Like I think this thing we were talking about a second ago around like ads and MCP, or just like what if like so much of, so many different things are powered by MCP. I think that is also like living in the future. Like most people aren't using a useful MCP workflow today beyond Playwright, right? I think like that is like by far the MCP server that has like the most product market fit, because it is like controlling a browser, kind of an obvious use case in a way, but like kudos to them as well. But like if you are using like 10 different MCP servers and are trying to make something work, I think that is like living in the future to some extent, and that could easily scale up to a ton of people, the majority of people.
Then it's really interesting, right? Because like the people who are trying to get in front of this, people like Stripe, they want to be the platform that enables you to make money and out of your MCP servers and agents. Like they're really pushing this, and I think some of the ideas they have are pretty wacky. But as soon as someone has like a wacky idea like that, I'm like, holy shit, I need to be even further. Okay, so agents are on the internet, they're like communicating, getting loads of like shit done. And then when they need a service, they call another agent that there's like a micro payment for every like time that they use the service. What happens then? Like, what is that future of work?
I feel like the perspective is more like, or I think the user perspective for people like you and I to take is more like, what can we build today that's useful for like just us in this new future? Whereas the perspective I think that Stripe or like Zapier or any incumbent will have is like, how does this future not make our golden goose no longer a golden goose?
Oh, yeah,
like
100%.
So it's like, which is I think a very different perspective. So I don't think you need to come up with a crazier future than like a wacky Stripe MCP payment gateway. I would at least focus on like, let me build like some cool thing where I don't know, can give some money to some agent like every morning, and then it can, I don't know, like whatever, right? But it's more like something that's kind of useful for you, or like that is like an interesting curiosity you can explore.
Yeah.
Like for your own benefit.
The prompt writing thing is interesting though. Like if that becomes a thing, like are people gonna Fiverr their prompts? Like essentially Fiverr, like genuinely, because there's loads of shit that I need prompting to do. But probably an agent is going to be better at writing the prompts than I am, because it could have context of a code base. It could understand like how the code base is built.
Yeah.
It could keep all of that context
Paul Graham's definition for AGI when we don't need to do the prompting anymore because agents or like AI can self-prompt.
Yeah,
Which is a bit...
that's terrifying because in that definition, using AMP, you're already there because they generate your agents files, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do. I mean, like I for sure think, some AI can generate rules files or whatever at the moment, but it's just like, I think what's confusing is like, it's this idea like you add a few specific words or preferences or whatever to your prompt file, and that completely shifts like the latent window of attention in like the model, right? And I think that's the thing where like if you get the agent to write your prompt file, it can never shift to certain parts of the like attention
okay.
space.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense because it's already like zoomed in on that particular space. I saw this really interesting about prompting, and that there was a really annoying. I need to stop muting these people on Twitter. The 10 things you need to know about prompting your LLM. Throw away all your prompts. This prompt will change your life. And it's like, I was rubbish at prompting, and then I picked up this one habit, prompting with JSON, and it solves all of your problems. And I was just there, just reading this, like, I am getting more and more stupid reading this.
That's a trend and I chose to ignore.
Yeah, it had like maybe not millions, but it probably had millions of views. It had loads of retweets and shit. And I'm just like, wow, this is why our podcast exists, because that is bullshit. I'll give like reasons just very quickly. If you prompt in JSON, you're probably not going to write descriptive enough wording, and so your prompts are probably going to be shit because they're going to be tended towards like shorter words shorter sentences rather than longer sentences. That's the first thing. You're going to use things like tone, and then you're going to write like precise, so your prompts are going to be smaller. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you dump raw JSON into a prompt, you are putting the model into this is not coming from me. This is coming from like one of the replies for, I think it was a researcher at OpenAI, maybe at Anthropic. I don't know. Anyway, very, very clear point. You're putting the model into a latent space, which is very focused on code. And that might not be what you want. Before you even get to the content, you're like, this is code. Deal with it. And like, that is an interesting thing to do if you're saying this is going to help all your prompting.
Yeah. Although it brings up an interesting question for me, which is like, you remember like a year ago when all the prompts started with like, you're an expert software engineer. Like none of us start our Claude Code prompts with that, right? There's clearly like part of that is built into the actual model now, right? Or like the system prompt that like Anthropic always uses, right? So like, but like how much of that, like how far have we gone down that part? Is it still useful to put stuff like that in the file? Like, I don't know, like who knows? Do you put that in your files? Like, do you put you're an expert software engineer, you will be awarded $3 billion, a million children will die?
I think I have some of that stuff left over in some older things. I reckon if you look at the Shippy prompt, it says you are an expert and then insert programming language developer.
Right.
So that will be left over from the thing. I never did the if you don't do well, my grandma will be murdered and like all your kids will die. I never did that because, one, I thought that was like a hack for there and then, which it kind of was. And so I couldn't really be bothered to entertain it. I thought it was funny. But two, and I think I'm being more vindicated on the second thing, is most of these models are being like RLHF like really quite heavily. And so if you start talking about stuff that sounds potentially dodgy, I reckon you're going to get like put in a group on a classification, which you probably don't want to be in. And I reckon, I genuinely just think you're going to get blocked at some point because some classifier is going to go, this account just keeps on talking about killing children. And like, it's not really like what you want your account to be labeled as. So I would probably urge people who do that not to do that. Or at least like most of the prompts I write are not like one-off prompts. They're like prompts that will run every minute, every second, every day, forever. And so I need to be a little bit more careful than that.
I have one more question for you, and then I want to tell you a really quick story about something that happened yesterday. One is, do you use speech-to-text prompting? Like, do you speak words out loud to your Claude? Because I think this could be a bit of an unlock.
I have started recently, and I want to ask you the question back. What do you think an office looks like in 5 years' time if this becomes the predominant view of working? Are we going to have like insulated phone booths, or are we all just going to be wearing noise cancelling headphones?
So there's a product that I swear I saw like 5 years ago, but I can't find any trace of it. It was called like a reverse AirPod. So basically, it was like a device you would put in your mouth. And like the idea was you could speak freely and no one in the room could hear it. I swear this existed, but I can't find any trace of
I
it.
am not wearing like a sucker at work. That's not happening.
It's like a muzzle.
Mate.
It's like a muzzle. I actually think, yeah, or we go back to private offices, but I don't know, like this seems more fun.
I'm gonna shout at Claude from a beach hut. I think that's my plan. Like just away from everyone with Starlink, just shouting at Claude. I think that's gonna be yeah. I think that's gonna be.
But
the
I
one.
think it's really powerful. So Armin Ranache, the Flask creator, he was talking
I
about
love
this
him
again
on
recently.
Twitter. I love him on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I think
man.
he's great. He's just so
He's so on the money at the moment. He's like
so
captured.
real.
Yeah, I would have said a year ago the person who was the most on the money was Jason Liu, the instructor creator, and I would say now the people who are most on the money are David Kramer and Armin.
And
I would,
Armin.
I think they're so invested in this agentic coding thing, or at least they're so on the money for us.
Yeah, I think they're
it's
like doing
crazy.
extremely relevant things. But yeah, so I don't know. I haven't figured this out yet. How to? If I still I think feels a bit awkward, but I do totally recognize how as soon as you start having a conversation, you just say more. And I mean, maybe this is the part of the solution to me not being able to focus on writing a prompt for longer than a couple minutes, is just to start blabbering out loud and then editing it down. But it feels like a big shift. But it feels like I can totally see how this is really, really useful.
I've written blog posts by taking a talk plus question and answer that I did at an event and putting that into Gemini and being like, write me a blog post based on this. And it's done really good job because I said what I wanted to say. It's just written it out in English rather than my stunted way of speaking.
I think that's a really cool workflow. Okay, I need to run, but I want to tell you this one thing which happened yesterday, which is just funny. You know how all programmers hate dealing with time and time zones?
Oh yeah.
I feel like I haven't had a big time zone issue in a while, but it happened again yesterday. It was almost a little bit nostalgic. It was kind of cute, but it's just so wild, what goes on in the world of time zones sometimes. So obviously GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. Have you ever heard of local mean time? Okay, yeah, you don't want to know about it. It's awful. It's wild. So what I mentioned, I was upgrading Simple Poll from Django 4.2 to 5.2. And as part of that, Django dropped support for this old time zone library that I think was kind of the standard for ages. It's called PyTZ, and that's used kind of heavily, especially for things recurring polls, on a schedule, what happens during daylight saving. There's a lot of edge cases, I don't know if you've ever built a scheduling system that's every Wednesday of every week I want this to post, or the first day of the month, all this fun stuff that comes with it.
I did this once before. Yeah. Absolute pain.
I think the solution is to use something called R rule, which I didn't know existed at the time, but would have been a huge time saver. But anyway, I built a lot of this manually. And anyway, it turns out they deprecated this library or even removed support for it. But instead of just failing, this silently changed the default behavior in how the time zones made by this library get interpreted by Django. So suddenly all of my tests were failing. And they were failing in very weird ways. I was expecting a certain date to exist in a payload, and the date was the same, but it was just slightly off. And then I look at the time zone, and it's just how is that possible, right? How can all your times be suddenly a little bit off? Anyway, I learned about local mean time, and what happened is that when you pass it a time zone, the America/New York or Europe/London, these time zones. When you pass them to the library, what used to happen is that it would default to what is the current time zone offset for that location, right? That makes sense. What is in 2024, whenever I last updated the library, what was the time zone offset? But with this deprecation, it changed to what was the time zone offset in that location at the beginning of time zones in 1883.
That's so funny.
In the late 1800s.
What?
And the time zone offset used in New York in 1883 was not UTC -5, which it is now. It was UTC -4 hours, 56 minutes, and 2 seconds. because solar noon is about 4 minutes and 56 seconds behind UTC -5, that is, how wild is that? And how wild is it that the default would change from the time right now to the time when time zones began? Like, it's so wild. But hey, I learned something.
Okay, that is crazy. That is actually crazy. And I think you might have just like put a nail on the head why building stuff with language models and that AI is actually really hard. And that is because building stuff in general that works on computers is fucking crazy and is mostly held together with hopes and dreams and some like random developer halfway around the world that you've never met and might have retired.
Yep.
Like,
so
like the fact that any of this works is bonkers. And then we're just like, oh, we'll just put like a probabilistic monkey in there and see what happens now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can see why.
It's surprising how much of it works.
Yeah, it's so surprising. It's surprising that MCP works. Like, genuinely, like any of it works. And there's some servers that consistently work really well for me. Like, I mean, Claude Code is built on the GitHub one, and that works pretty well. The reason it doesn't work is because like permissions is broken. But yeah, it's literally built on the GitHub MCP. Sorry, derail your story, but that is a wild story.
No, not at all. Yeah,
it's a wild story.
It's incredible. Yeah, I didn't know that time zones for cities were based on when the sun is directly overhead the city.
So like,
and that was
every year, does it change?
Oh yeah, it's a good point. I wonder if there's like a little bit of drift or something.
Because we have a drift. That's why we have leap years, right?
Yeah.
But is that a different drift? Because there can't be a drift between two static points. Like, they have to be the same over time. So it must be accounting for not full years. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was kind of like fun. I'm glad, to be honest, I think it could have taken me a lot longer to figure out what the fuck was going on there if I wasn't just like pasted it into like Claude or O3 or something and it was like, oh yeah, local mean time. Sounds simple. It's actually a time zone used in 883. Anyway, I have to run, but really nice chatting.
That is the duality, isn't it? It's so much like, how does it work? Yeah, it does. And it fixes shit that would have taken so long anyway.
Yeah,
fucking cool, man.
Great context.
Right. I will see you next week. We back on for next week?
Stay on, because I need to tell you something else.
Oh, we have a little secret chat
Post-recording, secret chat after, yeah.
I don't think people realize that we have like secret chats like loads of the time. They won't, because I cut out this bit normally. But I might leave it in this time.
A lot of people will learn about the secrets, I think, in the near future.
Okay, right. I'll stay on. Let's stop recording. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yo, it's Matt here. Just wanted to say, if you like this recording, please give us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps with like the ratings. Let's more people find it. And if you liked it a lot, share it to a friend. Go on. You wouldn't. There's like a whole spiel I could do here, but yeah, just share it to a friend. That'd be cool. And sorry this took so long to get out. We recorded this at least a week ago now. So yeah, it'll be out pretty soon. And the next episode, we've got some really exciting guests on. So yeah, hope to see you there. See ya. Bye.